Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here. It's our honor to host you today for this public hearing. So the Committee on Health, Tourism, Historic Preservation, Land and Justice calls this hearing to order. It is 1:01 p.m. on February 7, 2019. Notices for this confirmation hearing were disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets on January 29 and again on February 5th, 2019. The notice was also published in the Guam Daily Post on January 30th and February 5th, 2019. We have two agenda items today. One starting right now at 1 p.m. will be to receive testimony for the appointment of Therese C. Areola as Director, Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. At 1:30, we will receive a status update on Guam's Medicaid program and the potential $16 million shortfall in local matching funds for FY 2019 from Director Linda Mpinko and Denorsi and the Director of Department of Administration, Edward Byrne. I want to thank my colleagues for being here, beginning with the speaker, Tina Muñoz Barnes, Senator Josen Augustine, Senator Mary Camacho Torres, Senator Kelly Marsh, Senator Telo Taitagui, and my Vice Chair, Senator Sabina Perez. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of former Speaker Ken Areola in the room. Sujus Masi for being here. Our room is full of dignitaries today. Thank you all for being here. So before we hear from the panel, I would just like to very briefly read what the current statute says regarding the duties of the Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, stated in Section 86105 of Chapter 86, Title 10 of the Guam Code annotated. The department, adhering to federal regulations, local physical needs, feasibility, and appropriateness, shall provide mental health, alcohol, and drug abuse treatment services. The department shall establish and adopt regulations concerning fees it may change for such services, which may be based on ability to pay standards as established by the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority's Limit of Liability Program. Services shall include a 24-hour crisis intervention services, a mobile crisis team and a hotline, partial hospitalization and aftercare services to include transitional homes for the mentally ill, outpatient services to include as-needed team services for children, the elderly, and adults, individual, group, and family counseling services, inpatient services to include but not be limited to acute psychiatric and alcohol and drug detoxification services, mental health, alcohol, and drug abuse prevention programs and services, along with many other duties, but those are the main listing of what the public is expecting from the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. I've included in the packets for senators today the following information: the nomination from the Governor of Guam, written testimony in support of Mrs. Areola that we received prior to this hearing from Maria Leon Guerrero, representing Sanctuary Inc., Board of Directors, from Catherine Dominguez, Leilani Giltinag, Antoinette Batista, Tony Perez, Stephanie Guzman, Jared Pangandian, Iselin Concepcion, Sarita Ilesquam, Ria Taitano, Isabel McCord, Mark Messignon, and Eugene Anderson, and Carlos A. Perez, all who are staff with Sanctuary Inc. Mr. Frank Rabon of Gumataltatano, and Sarah Thomas Nedadog, and Linda Regis and former Senator Rory Respicio. I've also included in the packets the copies of the Behavior and Wellness Statutes, the amended permanent injunction and status report that was in the newspaper recently, the motion for relief from the judgment, the district court's order to provide updates for the status report, the 2017 Citizen-Centric Report from the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, and just a couple recent media articles for your convenience. We will now accept testimony, and I would like to call, of course, Mrs. Areola. Please, if you could And I'm going to read, there are a lot of people who signed in today in support of Mrs. Arad. Please come and sit in the middle and have a seat. And I'm going to call those who've also signed in to give oral testimony. If you could also come up. Maria Leon Guerrero. Aja Ramos. And Leilani Giltinak. There are very many other people who have signed in support of this nomination. I don't see any that is opposed, and I've got 3 pages. So I'd like to also recognize the presence of the Deputy Director of the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, Ms. Carissa Pangilinan. Thank you for being here today. So we will begin with those who are here to testify, and then we will have the nominee finish. So, yes, Maria.
Hello? Okay. I'd like to thank Chairperson Therese Terlaje and members of the Committee on Health for allowing us to provide testimony in support of the appointment of Teresa Cruz Arreola as Director of the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. I join you today as a member of Sanctuary's Board of Directors with testimony representing the entire board. Teresa has been Executive Director of Sanctuary since October 1st, 2015. Most of us on the board have served with her since she was hired. Since then, Teresa has done an exemplary job stabilizing Sanctuary and evolving the organization to its current accredited status, as well as its role in the community. For 48 years, Sanctuary has served the island's at-risk youth. It has provided shelter for children who no longer can be at home and who have not committed a crime. Without Sanctuary, these children would be relegated to the youth correctional facility where they do not belong. In those years, Sanctuary has also developed and continues to operate the only residential drug and alcohol rehabilitation program for youth in our region. The need for these services only continues to increase in our community and the region as a whole. As the years have gone by and our community has changed, Sanctuary has had to extend its role, offering outreach services, family counseling, the transitional living program, among other things. Teresa can take full credit for the organization's success over the last 3 years. As a manager, she inherited an organization that was constantly on the brink of payless paydays. Since she's taken over, the organization's financial position has stabilized. We have been able to give the staff merit increments, as well as make improvements to the facility's infrastructure. We are also now able to focus on potential capital projects, rather than worry about whether the organization will make payroll. Teresa also inherited financial issues with the annual audit requirements from previous years. We're happy to report the organization is now up to date and able to receive federal grants once again. In her role as Executive Director, Teresa has had to engage with all levels of staff, from professionals in the healthcare arena, judicial, police, financial services, as well as her own team. She has exhibited a willingness to learn and to work with folks from all professions and staff to ensure that Sanctuary continues to meet its mission, as well as position the organization for success. Teresa has also successfully led the organization through the accreditation process of the Commission on Accreditation of Rehabilitation Facilities, also known as CARF. As many of you know, acquiring an accreditation from an internationally recognized organization is difficult. It requires hours of work and months of preparation. It requires a leader to move the process through and an exemplary leader to recognize what needs to be done to succeed. The organization received its 3-year accreditation last year. As a member of the board and on behalf of all the board members, Teresa has been a pleasure to work with. She served passionately in her role as Executive Director. She brought experience and competence in management. She is very even-handed in her management style. She demands excellence from her team, but she also leads with empathy. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony on behalf of Teresa Areola. We are very proud to have had the opportunity to work with her. We are sad that we are losing her as our executive director, but we believe that in her new role, she will be able to effect the changes needed to improve the services at the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. We also hold in high regard her desire to serve the island community as a public servant. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Leon Guerrero. I'd also like to recognize the presence of Senator Amanda Shelton, Senator Regine Bisco-Lee, Senator Jose Pido Terlaje. Please proceed and state your name for the record. Sorry, press that red until the red light. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Therese Terlaje. Okay. And the members of Committee on Health. My name is Leilani Giltineg, and I will be representing the staff and employees of Sanctuary Incorporated of Guam. It is our utmost pleasure to highly recommend Therese Areola, our former executive director, to lead the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center as director. Mrs. Areola's effective leadership and business management skills allowed Sanctuary to strive for projects and opportunities that directly aligns with our organization's vision and mission of helping youth and families help themselves. As a nonprofit organization that operates directly from grants and fundraisers, Mrs. Areola's proactive approach helps Sanctuary in securing additional funding through federal and local sources. Mrs. Areola's ability to adapt quickly and think strategically allowed Sanctuary to mitigate high-risk situations and resolve matters professionally and timely. Her compassion for at-risk youth and families allowed Sanctuary to serve the community with humility and integrity. She made sure that the organization is well represented in the communities and that lasting partnerships were made with other service providers and agencies. Mrs. Areola spent a meaningful 3 years at Sanctuary, making notable impact on the administrative and operational functions of the organization. She was instrumental in attaining the organization's 4th 3-year accreditation from CARF International, and she made sure that the physical integrity of our organization by updating our financial audits from year 2013 to current. Mrs. Areola will truly be a great asset to the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. Although we're sad to see her go, we have no doubt that her exemplary leadership capacity will essentially drive the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center to the peak of its successes. Thank you, Senator Terlaje.
Thank you very much, Leilani. I'd also like to recognize the presence of Senator Luis Muña. And now, Asia.
Hafide, my name is Asia Ramos, and I'm here to represent Sarah Thomas Nedadog and provide her testimony for the Committee on Health. Thank you for having us here today. Dear Chair Terlaje, I submit to you this testimony as a private citizen and resident of the village of Dededo on behalf of Teresa Areola for the position of Director of the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. I have been in the field of human services, policy, and education for over 42 years, serving in various positions in the nonprofit field and in the executive and legislative branches of government. I have known Ms. Areola for over a decade, initially in her role as Deputy General Manager for the Guam Visitors Bureau, then later as the Project Director for Pa'a Tautautanu, and most recently as Executive Director for Sanctuary Incorporated. She has also served on the board as an active member and officer for Pazuta, Inc., Guam's umbrella organization of nonprofits. In these various roles, Ms. Areola has been responsible, participatory, and displayed balance and temperament, excellent critical thinking skills, and the ability to work with diverse populations and personalities. She is a gifted grant writer, manager, and a decisive decision maker and problem solver. The work that is before Ms. Arreola as the lead for this critical agency could be perceived as monumental. With the many complex issues facing our families and community in the areas of behavioral health and substance abuse, taking on this leadership role could be daunting. Ms. Arreola has displayed a sense of optimism and courage when discussing this new journey for her to her colleagues. Her background, commitment, and passion to truly help is impressive and gives me great optimism that she will be successful in carrying out the mission of this important governmental entity. With these in mind, I wholeheartedly endorse the confirmation of Ms. Arreola as the director of the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center and encourage your committee to approve and send forward affirmatively to the full body of legislators. I'm available to you for further information and appreciate your time and the opportunity to present my views herein. Sincerely, Sarah Thomas Netadog.
Thank you very much, Asia and Sarah. And now we have one testimony that the speakers requested to read on behalf of former Senator Rory Respicio.
Si Senator, dear Chairperson Terlaje, buenas and half a day. I am writing this letter to express my support for the confirmation of Ms. Therese Arreola to serve as Director of Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness. I have known Therese for almost 30 years, having worked with her at the Guam legislature, served in the Gutierrez-Bordallo administration, and have been on the same campaign trail going all the way back to the 1990 election. She has been constant, steadfast, and always eager to bring people together to solve problems. Madam Chairperson and Senators, a great indicator of how Therese will perform in her new profession capacity will be to look at how she has been serving as Sanctuary's Executive Director, as well as the unwavering trust that she is receiving from Governor Lou Leon Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio. The greatest strength that Therese brings to her new role as the Director for the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness is the same passion and work ethic that she brought for Sanctuary, the Guam Visitors Bureau, the legislature, Pa Tautau, and all the other government and non-government organizations she served throughout her career. I am speaking of Therese's keen business sense, effective people skills, amazing team and coalition building abilities, and her energy, which makes her an awesome taskmaster. These are Therese's qualities and skill sets, and surely the beneficiaries of her progressive leadership are the department's clients, its personnel, and stakeholders. Truly, the beneficiaries of the work that Therese will foster in conjunction with her co-workers and other government, private sectors, and non-government partners will truly be for the people of Guam. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to submit this brief testimony in support of Ms. Therese Arreola to be confirmed as the Director of Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness. Rory J. Respicio.
Speaker. I'd also like to recognize the presence of Senator Clint Rigel and Senator Jim Moylan. All right. And now, if we may welcome Therese Arreola to please present her testimony.
Hafaday, Health Committee Chair Senator Therese Terlaje, Speaker Tina Muñoz Barnes, members of the Committee on Health, honorable senators of the 35th Guam Legislature. Thank you for this opportunity to come before you. But before I proceed, please allow me to acknowledge those who have joined me this afternoon. My husband Vince, my father-in-law Speaker Ken Arreola, my Cruz Arreola brothers and sisters, other family members, staff from Sanctuary, staff from the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, other family members, and dear friends. To them, your love and support is greatly appreciated. Thank you for taking the time to be with me today. Senators, Buenas and good afternoon. For the record, my name is Teresa C. Areola. I am a Chamorro daughter of Guam who simply believes that every person desires to live a healthy and purpose-driven life. I am guided with deep faith in God and the cultural value of Inafamalik to make right better every day. I am honored to appear before you as Governor Lou Leon Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio's nominee for the Director of Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. Excuse me, sorry. My heartfelt appreciation and gratitude to Magat Hagat Leon Guerrero and Segundo Magatlahi Tenorio for their trust and confidence in my ability to lead this fine agency whose mission is to provide behavioral health services to our most vulnerable members of our community, from childhood to adulthood, who struggle with a myriad of behavioral conditions to include, but not limited to, suicide ideation and drug and alcohol addiction. I come to you with over 24 years of management experience, over 15 years of federal grant management experience, an MBA in marketing, and a Bachelor's of Science degree in management and marketing. Sorry. With a minor in psychology. Most recently, for close to 3.5 years, I have had the privilege of being the Executive Director of Sanctuary Incorporated of Guam, the oldest locally chartered, CARF-accredited nonprofit organization whose mission is focused on assisting at-risk youth who struggle with addiction, abuse, and neglect. Delivering Sanctuary from closing its doors, I stabilized finances by growing financial revenue streams, attaining over $10 million of federal funding that was lost or never sought, and putting into place a fund development plan that will bring funding and much needed awareness of Sanctuary back to the community. Sanctuary was the first organization on Guam that sought and attained CARF accreditation. During my tenure at Sanctuary, despite the financial and personnel challenges, I was able to secure, with the fine staff of Sanctuary, its 4th re-accreditation. It is my work experience at Sanctuary that directly prepared me for the position I have been nominated to today. Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, as far as I'm concerned, should have received the 2018 Department of the Decade Mag Pro Award. Excuse me. This is an agency that continues to be under federal receivership, yet managed to attain CARF accreditation, the very first government of Guam department to do so. Over the past 3 weeks since being appointed, alongside my very capable deputy, Carissa Pangilinan, I have spent long hours meeting the department's dedicated staff, reviewing its financial and program standings, and getting quickly versed on the amended permanent injunction. Allow me to speak on the amended permanent injunction that made Guam's paper yesterday. On November 15th of last year, the government of Guam filed a motion for relief from judgment. It should be noted the plaintiffs have not opposed the motion. The court, however, is requesting updated information prior to a final ruling. I have provided the committee a copy of the latest order by U.S. District Judge Consuelo Marshall, dated February 5th, 2019, requesting for an updated status report no later than February 28th. Please be assured that the report is currently being prepared and the set deadline will be met without fail. After meeting with Attorney Highsmith, we predict, without certainty of course, best case scenario that the amended permanent injunction will be vacated in less than 2 months, or Judge Marshall will visit the Guam Behavioral Health this year before making her ruling, likely within 6 months. Nevertheless, we are confident that the final ruling will be made this year. I extend, on behalf of the department, sincere appreciation to attorneys Kathy Seguenza and Dave Highsmith of the Attorney General's Office for their diligent representation of the department. Provided also are copies of the last status report filed in District Court dated July 26, email from Attorney Kathy Seguenza dated September 21st, and copy of the motion filed for relief from judgment by the Government of Guam dated November 15th for your review. Besides the amended permanent injunction that keeps Guam Behavioral Health in the news, it is unfortunate that the high rate of suicide and drug and alcohol addiction also keeps the department highlighted. Guam's suicide rate is noted to be highest in the nation. Our drug and alcohol addiction is evident with news stories hitting Guam's papers daily. The Guam Behavioral Health under the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration has a clear strategy to address these two behavioral conditions. It is committed to reducing suicide in our community through the following strategies. Number 1, education and training. Prevention is a key pillar for the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration. Guam Behavioral Health will revamp its prevention and training peace division by providing the necessary training staff personnel needed to begin aggressive community trainings in safe talk, assist, mental health first aid, and connect suicide post-prevention, all of which are suicide evidence-based trainings that will help lay individuals like you and me to identify suicide ideation and safely talk them to a safe space to get the proper counseling one needs. The goal is to continue the existing partnership with Guam DOE's 33,000 students, Government of Guam's employees at 10,000 plus, and venture to private businesses as well as families to train as many residents as possible. The Peace Division several years ago was funded by a federal grant that has since ended, and as a result, so has its training efforts in the community. I have since redirected personnel to the Peace Training Division in the last week, and an aggressive training schedule is now being developed. The establishment of the Mobile Responsive Stabilization Service Center that will house the Guam Crisis Helpline and Guam Youth Drop-In Center is another strategy. Through DOI funding of almost $1.2 million that the department received as far back as 2009, last week I have fast-tracked the rehabilitation of the Guam Behavioral Health Rays of Hope home that is currently empty. In collaboration with DPW, the DOA GSA bid process is in motion with a timeline to finish refurbishment of the home before September of 2019. The department, in the meantime, will operate a Guam Lifeline in a temporary space in the main Tamuning facility. Recruitment and training of Lifeline operators will be completed in March of this year. In the meantime, Guam Behavioral Health psychiatric nurses will continue to operate the current crisis hotline as a collateral duty. Another strategy to address suicide in our community is the marketing of Guam Behavioral Health counseling services. An aggressive marketing campaign is currently being developed. It is imperative that the island residents are aware of the services the department provides. Awareness will ensure that our island community know exactly where to obtain the needed behavioral services it needs. Outreach event, social media, traditional media outlets, and partnership with PBS station will be the means in which our message will be shared. Guam Behavioral Health is committed to assisting island residents who are struggling with drug and alcohol addiction. Through the department's New Beginning Drug and Alcohol Division, outpatient assessments and counseling continue to provide the much-needed help our residents require. Outpatient services held at New Beginning, as well as partner service providers such as Sanctuary, Salvation Army, and Oasis Empowerment, definitely make impact in addressing the blaring community's concern of drug and alcohol addiction on our island. With the backing of the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration, Guam Behavioral Health is committed to enhancing the drug and alcohol services currently being offered with the reopening of Guam's only intensive inpatient detox unit, also known as 3.7, located on the 3rd floor that has been closed since Pangsangwa in 2002. The repair of damages has since been completed, but the program has not realized the needed funding to start up again. Governor Leon Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Tenorio are currently in the process of identifying possible funding source of $1.9 million to begin the pilot of 6 beds. Once funding is identified, we only need 2 months to renovate and furnish the unit, with an immediate opening as early as June of this year. Beds will be immediately filled with consumers in need of more intensive treatment. These consumers have already been identified. I will be seeking full funding for the 16-bed unit in the 2020 budget request. There are other department priorities identified and being addressed today. Of course, the retention of CARF accreditation in 2020. The department received CARF accreditation in 2017 for the maximum of 3 years. Accreditation meeting with staff is ongoing monthly in preparation for the next survey. Accreditation ensures that the services provided by the department is client-centered, and that service provided meets standard level of excellence of over 300 national standards. We are also looking at fully implementing the fee schedule of services provided by Guam Behavioral Health. Guam Behavioral Health schedule was approved back in December of 2012. Fair effort to bill clients for medication only began in 2018 and has collected $44,423 as of November of last year. It has been reported that the department could realize up to $10,000 a day minimum if all services are billed and collected. Recognizing that the primary reason why not all services are not being billed at this time is only due to personnel, I have exercised the limited term appointment of 2 qualified individuals with extensive billing and coding experience. They are currently being profiled by DOA and should be on board as early as next week to immediately begin billing efforts for all services provided by the department. In addition, with the assistance of DPW 2 weeks ago, the new Patients of Fair Bay, mandated by the permanent injunction, is currently under renovation and will be in full operation by the end of the month. This space will house registration, billing, and medical records. Another priority of the department is the rehabilitation of Guam Behavioral Health's therapeutic group home. With DOI funding mentioned earlier, I have approved and initiated the rehabilitation bid process in partnership with DPW. Today, the DOA GSA bid process is in motion with a timeline again to finish before September of this year. This renovation will allow for 2 off-island clients to be brought back home and receive the care that Guam Behavioral Health can finally provide for them. Currently, the government of Guam, through the Residential Treatment Fund, provides for off-island treatment care for 7 clients at an average of $300,000 annually per client. The return of these 2 clients to Guam Behavioral Health Therapeutic Home will realize a savings of $600,000 immediately. Rental savings. I have directed the move of Prevention and Training Division as well as the Terlaje Healthy Transition Initiative program that has been renting commercial space in Agana to the Guam Behavioral Health main facility. Realization of savings from grant programs allow for the use of funds in other expenditure categories such as personnel and training. Last but not least, the hiring of critical positions. Critical positions such as the clinical administrator and psychiatric nurse administrator have been vacant for over 4 years. In the last 2 weeks, I have officially detailed staff to the acting capacity of these 2 critical positions and have begun recruitment for permanent personnel. DOA hiring process is in motion, and in addition, the retirement of 2 psychiatrists this fiscal year is of great concern to me. Recruitment efforts by those retiring doctors, as well as Medical Director Dr. Ishmael, is in full swing with at least 1 psychiatrist currently residing off island, seriously considering and has agreed to vacation in the next few months on Guam to meet and discuss the possibility. Discussion to use a headhunting recruitment agency is also being explored. Senators, these are but a few of the immediate priorities I have focused my attention on in the last few weeks since being appointed. The progress in the short period of time at the department would not be possible without the dedicated and hardworking Guam Behavioral Health staff and the cooperation of the Leon Guerrero Tenorio Fellow Cabinet members. Spirits are high and excitement for progress is evident. I commit to you a leadership that is focused on results, firm and decisive yet compassionate. I am committed to building capacity among the department's employees to ensure the most excellent service is provided to our people, for they deserve nothing less. I thank you for your time, and God bless.
I want to thank you very much, Ms. Ariola. That was excellent testimony, and I was very happy when I met with you. You were the first nominee that this committee received, and so we are happy that this is the first hearing we are having on a nomination. And when I met with you and the deputy director, I was very impressed by the amount of work you had already done and the plans that you had laid down, the priorities that you had set. And I very much agree with your priorities, and particularly this committee is dedicated to decreasing drug and alcohol dependence in the community, and especially suicide rates. So we're here to support you in these efforts. And I know in the last fiscal year, I think the former speaker was very adamant about keeping the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center's budget up to a level that you have today. And so we're going to try our best to do that. And I know there's these additional programs that you are pushing that have been actually put in abeyance in the community for far too long. We're going to have to work on that together with my colleagues, so, and of course with the governor. So I want to thank you again for your commitment to this, and I want to thank all of you for your testimony who are here today. And I'd like to now open it up for my colleagues if they also have questions. I guess I'll start with the speaker. Yes, please.
Sijuas Masi, Madam Chair, for giving me the opportunity to start off, and for the record, I'll disclose to our colleagues that I've known Ms. Therese Ariola for, I think, almost more than 3/3 of my life. And I just want to say that in all the years that I worked with you in government and nonprofit work, on the campaign trail, and just about everything that we've done, both civic, the leadership that you share with your team, with your family, with your peers, has been very inspirational. And I want to say that as you were reading this testimony with so much heart and passion, and I look at all the programs, and something that I can remember as far back as being the deputy director of DISID and the permanent injunction, and knowing that in the few weeks that you've been with the center, that you guys have already getting back on track, getting the funding that it's needed, looking at the staffing patterns, making sure that the expertise that is needed for the agency will be there, but bringing all the employees together. Madam Chair, I want to say that this was not just a testimony for her confirmation, but it could have even been an informational briefing of what the agency needs, where it needs to be, and what it has to do, and what it's going to do to fill that, but more importantly, to find resources. And the team with your deputy and the staff, and then also including and having your nonprofit family here of Sanctuary, I just want to say thank you very much for stepping up to the plate. You know, usually we ask, you know, what are the 3 things, or what is something that different that you can bring to the table, you know, by being appointed by the administration, and you've come here with a whole program, a plethora of things. So I want to disclose for the record that you've got my support. I want to thank the speaker, the SINA speaker, for being here to support his daughter-in-law, but more importantly, everybody who's here to make a difference for her. And thank you. Thank you for stepping up for the island of Guam. You've got my support. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker. Senator San Augustine?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Therese, known Therese a long time, and even the husband, Vince. You know, just listening to what you're reading and reading along with you, I'm like, are you at the right agency? Or I'm just thought I'd ask that question. I mean, I see everybody here in support of you, and Vince is laughing like, don't ask her to go somewhere else. No, I actually look forward to the mission that you're focusing. Because then, you know, you'll be presenting your budget, and I'll be looking at it, and I look forward to seeing how we can help you. Okay? And you can expect me to raise my hand and say, yes, put her in office. All right?
Thank you.
You have a nice day.
Senator Torres?
Mrs. Arreola, you are obviously a woman of great distinction, and I believe that if you're able to accomplish what you've set out in this very short time frame, being able to recognize it and have a clear path, Guam will indeed be a better place as a result of your efforts there, and you have my full support, and whatever we can do to help you get there, we definitely will help you with your goals with behavioral health. Congratulations, and I'm quite impressed with what you've done so far.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Lee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mrs. Arreola, for accepting the governor's nomination, but also you have a very clear understanding of what that means. And so we just want to thank you for your continued service to the people of Guam, but specifically in this role. I also want to thank you very much for taking my phone call about 2 weeks ago. We had a really good conversation about mental health first aid, and I'm glad that you covered that in your testimony. We also, in the last term, and I'm not sure about before then, but we were also in receipt of sanctuaries, timely reports, and you provide that to the legislature because you received funds from this branch. So certainly all of us were in receipt of those documents through our messages and communications, and so I just want to thank you so much for providing them very timely, and any questions that we had, you were always there to answer those questions. You also updated us about behavioral health's therapeutic group home. So that was one of the questions that I had, but you already addressed that. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and I know that you have extensive experience with CARF accreditation based on your previous role at Sanctuary. So I just wanted to ask you if you thought that there were any significant challenges. I know you just assumed the role a few weeks ago, but if you could present to the committee and just give us an idea of what the lay of the land is there and anything that we might be able to help you with, or anything, any real big issues that kind of came up as you were looking at this in terms of CARF accreditation. I know you have a few months to get to that, but I just wanted to see what your thoughts were about that.
Thank you, Senator, for that question. Actually, I'm very impressed with how the department has prepared for accreditation. I need to acknowledge the key point person for accreditation, Ms. Sid, and actually all the managers, and I'm very humbled that most of them are here, and this team is a good team. I'm going to just reiterate the fact that despite under receivership, they were able to attain accreditation. And those of us who know how hard and difficult it is to attain accreditation know it takes a dynamic team to do so. So kudos to the management team of Guam Behavioral Health. And honestly, I think we're in good shape. There's some things that we need to work through on the quality improvement plan, but things are progressing in a timely manner. So I have no doubt that we're going to be good to go for the next survey.
That's really good to hear. I also just wanted to give you an opportunity to, again, highlight the drug and alcohol addiction plan that you might have. So you were mentioning that you were working with the administration to identify a possible source of funding, to begin the pilot 6 beds, and then potentially building on that. So if you could just give us an update on that as well.
Weekly, the health cabinet team meets with the governor and the lieutenant governor. And so it's not a cabinet meeting like normal cabinet meetings. We're actually broken down into different areas. And so they want to talk to us on a weekly basis, not a monthly basis. And in those meetings, it's very clear that the 3.7 reopening for the intensive detox unit is a major, major focus and priority for the administration. For obvious reasons, we need it. Only those of us who have the ability to go off island and seek treatment in units, in intensive facilities, can do so, but our general population does not have the ability to go off island and admit themselves to a facility to get intensive treatment. So it's imperative that all of us, the administration, the legislature, we all rally behind this and open 3.7. As I mentioned in my testimony, the beds are going to open. There's already a waiting list, so we're just waiting. And so they are looking at funding. I know the financial team is looking at funding. Actually, I have a 2 o'clock with the financial team and the governor and the lieutenant governor, because it's our healthcare cabinet meeting. Carissa, you're going to head out soon, right? Okay. They're focused on finding funding. And I know when they do, I think they'll be working with the legislature in making sure that that comes.
Thank you very much for highlighting that, and I agree that it's an incredible, it might seem like an incredible feat, but we already have so many people, and it's so needed and necessary that we give the people in our community who are really struggling with these addictions the services that they really, really need. And to be honest, we're paying for it in other ways anyway. So we really need to work together. I agree to identify this funding, and so I'm really committed to working with you and your team at Behavioral Health to make sure that this happens. So thank you very much for bringing it up.
Thank you, Senator.
Masi.
Thank you, Senator. I'm also would like to do my best to get all the health professionals in the room back to work, and so I'm going to keep moving on. But Senator Peter Terlaje.
Therese, imajek mo, haugu mas dinanci pong genetis di na posisyon. Lumayla jabe tutuna esti, paguda limandana ta todo. Guahu gini masamku. Jati bay faisin todos ti banggat songo gini pun mapreba. I-confirmation mo. Bay taugo. So mapreba. Anyway, going through the through your testimony here, when I come up to the $10 million that you made available for something that was lost a long time ago, I don't want to read anymore. Because it's not easy to find a person that would realize $10 million working it out on her own and getting that $10 million because of your ingenuity in finding ways to create the words that you need and the things that you request to get that money. Pues esti pago besang na hagasi manatungo ja hagasutungo. Jagid esti idurantin nila lata nai jangin tapesa hujung ahafa isini dot mas spipia pai tau iti chomuni manaulik ejigin spipia puna maulik inila lai tau puna maulik inila la eju sempi iman malong ja ejigi na manutugyang gwini sa anin tutun ijun mami campaign. All that we do is we go out and we tell people that we want to promote the quality of life for every one of us. Pues ejigi indikasyon esti hami pago in sa poputyo gwini sa dinanci magic poginitis na posisyon. Zabe na idang kluna si Jesus mahasi gobyerno dan segundo gobyerno sa dinanci magic promania esti na chocho si Jesus mahasi. Amjulo kitoro si Jesus mahasi na finatun mizo.
Si Jesus mahasi.
Si Jesus mahasi. Senator Moylan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mrs. Ariola, thank you for that very impressive testimony. I appreciate that. And I'm really looking forward to working with you. And I'm really excited for the department under your leadership. I think it will go a long way. So thank you for accepting the position. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senators. Senator Marsh.
Hathade and Sejus Maasi for your very thoughtful testimony. It demonstrates your commitment to ensuring that the center is going to succeed. I deeply care about, and I think all of us and the community really deeply care about, issues related to behavioral health and wellness. They're issues that are not always easily talked about, but they are so important because they really impact all of us in so many ways. Our community needs somebody who is passionate, caring, and hardworking. And I've known you for several years, and I know you to be all of those things. So I support your nomination.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Senator Taitagui.
Hathade, Therese, and as well, thank you for stepping up to the plate. This kind of job is, especially in this area, is a thankless job, so I really appreciate it that you decided to do this. And what makes it even better is that I'm getting 2 for 1, because behind you right there, your rock, your foundation out there is a wealth of knowledge that I'm sure when you guys go home at night and discuss this, you're going to get his opinion, and he's a great guy to go for opinions.
It's an exciting household. It's an exciting household. It's an exciting household conversation.
Absolutely. Everything that you stated in your testimony here is actually I had questions on, and most of them were answered. The only thing I have right now is I just want to know the percentage of those who your clients who come to behavioral wellness. What is the percentage of those who do not pay, who are not able to pay, and the percentage of those who are able to pay? Is it a high percentage?
Well, actually, we don't know because we're not billing.
Oh,
So
this
thus
fee
the
schedule.
need
Okay.
That's the need to fully implement the fee schedule so we can start seeing how much of the services we can realize.
It says here you collected 44,000.
For medicine alone, just
Okay.
medicine.
Okay, so I'm anxious to see how fast you can
So
get that up and
professional
going.
services haven't been billed yet.
Yeah, that's going to be very important moving forward, if
Absolutely.
anything, is to get that billing up and going. The fee schedule was implemented in 2015, so we need to get that going.
12.
Other than that, you know this is going to entail a lot of work for you. There's a lot to be done over here, and your time as well as spending with families is very important, number one, in your health. I know that you were also appointed as back to GVB as an alternate. Is that true?
Yes.
So you think you can be
Thank
able
you,
to
Madam
do...
Speaker.
Okay. Do you think you could be able to do this job as well as being going to GVB and being a member there?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Sabina Perez.
Buenas, Therese.
Hi.
Thank you so much for your testimony. When you read it, I was just feeling so much passion coming out of it. And all the work that you've done so far is very inspiring to us all. It raises the bar for all of us here in government. And you know, considering the amount of work that lies ahead, I feel that very confident in your abilities. So you have my full support, and I support the community too as well. There's a lot of issues that we have to deal with. It's a crisis situation, and your approach to this is right on. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Academy sister.
Senator Shelton.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mrs. Arreola, for accepting the nomination and for being here today, and to all of your family, your friends, your colleagues for coming to support. As I look out into the audience here, I see all of these people who I know, all of us up here, find very trustworthy, very notable people in our community, and I think that says a lot to the caliber of the person here for before us. And I am very impressed by your testimony and by the progress and the plans that you've already made. And I'd just like to hear you speak a little to the role that you think that you'll have and the department will have in helping to better support our youth when it comes to their mental well-being.
Well, the wonderful thing, as you know, I came from Sanctuary, and that was very focused on youth. Sanctuary's major funder is Guam Behavioral Health. And so we will continue to fund Sanctuary's Sagan No Homlo program, which is the only drug and alcohol treatment program for youth in the region. So they are a service provider of Guam Behavioral Health, and we will continue to support Sanctuary so that they can continue helping youth with drug and alcohol addiction.
Senator Muñoz.
I'm just glad I'm not last. Thank you, Therese. Everybody wants to acknowledge you, and I guess that just goes to show how much you're well supported here. And I also want to acknowledge former Speaker Ken Arreola. I saw you get emotional when you turned around and to acknowledge him. To have him as your backing is a very good thing. So thank you very much, Mr. Arreola, for supporting Therese. In the last month, there are so many things that have happened to me that are so aligned. It's so coincidental. At first, I thought it was very coincidental that I'd meet with Sally McDonald at UOG talking about the suicide rates of the students there. And then meeting with someone from the National Weather Service saying that they've come across a couple of people that they were able to assist. And then putting everybody together at UOG with Dr. Twaddle at the ISA Psychological Center. And then having a meeting with Dr. Annette David, which is scheduled conveniently today with the Behavioral Health and Wellness. I've got several people attending this meeting later this afternoon. And it's not even really a coincidence anymore. It's almost like, it's like a sign, you know, from God saying that there's something that we have to do here, especially now that there's 1 in every 10 people on Guam that commit suicide, right? And 1 in every 10 days, someone commits suicide here on Guam. So that's very, very concerning. And with leadership such as yours, and then with our chair, Senator Therese Terlaje, and all of our support with the senators here, we'll make sure that this portion of the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center to reduce suicide happens. Thank you so much for stepping up to the plate.
Thank you, Senator.
Yeah.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Clint Ridgell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Congratulations to Mrs. Ariola for your nomination. I'd just like to say I really like the idea of focusing on education as a preventative measure to suicide, and I'd also like to encourage that same line of thinking of education for prevention of drug and alcohol abuse. And I really think, and I want to stress that focusing on education for prevention, I think, is really key in all those areas, both suicide prevention, drug and alcohol abuse prevention as well. I think that's really key, is focusing on education. So I like that idea. Thank you very much, and congratulations again on your nomination. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Again, I'd like to thank you, Mrs. Ariola, and all those who provided testimony and came today in support of this nominee. I want to thank you for your leadership, your service for our community, and your testimony, and we're looking forward to working with you. So there being no additional individuals to present further testimony on this confirmation, the committee will continue to remain open until February 14 for acceptance of any additional information or testimony on this agenda item. You may submit testimony to senatorterlajeguam@gmail.com or to the Guam Congress Building. Si Diyos maasi.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you all. Have a good afternoon.
Oh. Did he want to testify? Oh, no, this is okay. We will continue with the second part of the hearing in 1 minute. All right. Welcome back, everyone. We will continue our hearing with the second item on the agenda. Status update from the Department of Public Health and Social Services and the Department of Administration on Guam's Medicaid program and the potential shortfall in local matching funds for FY 2019. I would like to thank, of course, the Director of the Department of Public
acting.
Health. Acting Director.
Not yet confirmed.
She'll be having a confirmation hearing soon. And Acting Director Byrne for being here. Thank you very much, and for waiting for the earlier hearing. I very much appreciate your time here. And I want to thank my colleagues again for being here for the second part of this hearing. And of course, Tess Archangel from the Department of Public Health. Thank you very much. Before we discuss the numbers, is pretty much what we're going to be talking about, and possibilities of funding. I would like to just very generally for the committee, if you would, just discuss how many people on Guam are served by Medicaid, and what is the eligibility criteria to be a Medicaid patient?
Okay. Hello, my name is Linda Ompinko Denorsi. I'm the acting DPHSS director. And currently in 2018, we have about 43,549 eligibles. And as far as the eligibility, they have to meet the income criteria. There's a poverty level that has to be met. And of course, they go through a rigorous screening at the Department of Public Health with case managers in order for them to qualify. They have case workers that are able to assess that, and they go into a real scrutiny as far as an application process, and that asks us all kinds of questions in terms of the resources that they have, and then what their income level is, and then they also ask them if they have any other dependents, and some of them do qualify. If they're childless, they have no children, that's under our Medicaid childless program, and so forth.
So 43,000 people out of about 160,000 people on Guam?
Yes, that is correct.
All right, thank you very much. And
sure.
So the government of Guam has been aware of these federal funds available for Medicaid, contingent on local matching funds.
Yes.
And in the past fiscal years have attempted to access this federal funding. In FY 2019 in particular, well, they provided approximately 13 million.
Yes.
In appropriations for that matching fund, and 19 million from the pharmaceutical fund for the local matching funds. However, the full GMHA pharmaceutical fund appropriation of approximately 19 million was authorized to be expended for GMHA operations instead of Medicaid pursuant to executive order in September 2018. In the last session of the previous legislative term, 2 laws were passed aimed at giving some more money to Medicaid. Public Law 34-141 and 34-148 appropriated 3.5 million from the Healthy Futures Fund balance and 700,000 from GIDA's community funds. Still, there was a shortfall remaining, and that's even just to pay claims for expected in fiscal year 2019, and that left also many more federal funds we were unable to tap because we did not have enough matching funds. So I know that you, as the previous director stated, are having weekly meetings with the governor, and, yes. And appreciate that regarding how funding and other things regarding your Department of Public Health. I've also raised this issue with the governor, and my colleagues are aware, and we're also trying to work with the Office of Finance and Budget under the Senator Josen Augustine to seek assistance to fund this shortfall immediately, because you have told us that this will run out at the end.
September 30, 2019.
Right. Well, that funding will run out, but our current appropriations may run out even sooner.
Correct.
At April 1. And so we're trying to, this is a priority for our committee, and we're here to help you as much as we can. So at our initial meeting in January, you confirmed that there was an urgent need to pursue 10 million for local matching for Medicaid, CHIP, and EAP claims in order to make it through the 3rd and 4th quarters.
That's correct.
Immediate. And that initial figures has since increased, and I know you have a spreadsheet that I've shared with my colleagues, and that you will be going into that in detail. But generally, that initial figure has increased to approximately 16 million, or potentially 16 million.
If you include the, if we don't have the 3.5
Correct.
million, that
Right.
was
And I'll let you
appropriate.
explain that in detail.
Sure.
And all right, so I just wanted to explain also to my colleagues and to the public that, so what we've passed out to you today is Ms. DeNorcy's, her letter, her status update letter, and her spreadsheet, which she will be going in detail and explaining to us. And some of the letters that we've written back and forth. So yeah, we're looking forward. If you could please clarify what is the need and what is the Department of Public Health's plan to pursue this remaining ACA money?
Yes. Well, obviously, we are, with the spreadsheet that you have in front of you, when we met, Senator, that was as of expenditures from January 22nd, 2019.
Oh, wait, I think we passed out the new one that you gave us today.
That is correct. So I just wanted to clarify, at that time, it was 10 million in shortfall. But now that we were able to get all the claims all the way through to January 31st, 2019, this gives us 4 full months of claims in lieu of 3.5 months. So the way we projected it, of course, the more claims you have, the more you're able to touch your federal awards. And so right now, we're looking at that. And if you look in your spreadsheet, we had about 75,912,959 in all the federal awards for all the Medicaid programs, such as Medicaid and Medicaid ACA. That is also inclusive of Medicaid childless adults, the Medicaid waiver, the CHIP, and the CHIP waiver, and the EAP, which stands for Enhanced Allotment Plan. And all that, if you combine all the federal awards together, that's about 58,012,724. And if you require a local match, that will be about 17,900,234.86. So having said that, we based all our expenditures of actual claims that have arrived in our department from all private sectors, the hospitals, and so we were able to have that projection because they are real live claims. And that totaled about 52,654,172.51, and of that, 38,074,161.51 is the federal. So obviously the local expenditure is 14,580,011. So what we then did was, of course, you have your federal awards minus the actual expenditures from October 1st, 2018, all the way through January 31st, 2019. And so you have the current available funding, and that is 23,258,786.60. And of that, the federal share.
Sorry, just if I could just, so
Sure.
for my colleagues, we're on the third big row.
Yes.
The light green,
here.
the second light green colored row. All right, thank you.
All right. And so from there, we have $19,938,562.74 in federal, and the local match for that was $3,320,223 in 0.86 of what is the current available funding. And then, well, of course, to project, because we only have 4 months, we're just starting the new fiscal year 2019. So we need to project another 8 more months to have a full FY 2019. And the only way we could do that realistically is what we have based on claims. So we then proceeded to do using that actual expenditure, we then figured out what is the FY 2019 expenditure for the remaining 8 months that we have left. And so we came out with a figure of $116,253,360.33, and of that, the federal is $84,970,857, and of course, the local match for that was $31,282,503. So when you take what federal awards you have minus your expected expenditure, then obviously you know you have a shortfall. And so that shortfall that we're projecting based on the 2019 expenditures and on current claims that are being processed is about $40,340,401.23. And of that, 26,958,132.85 is the federal share, and the local share, and this is what we're asking for, is 13,382,268. And that is just projected, senators. We don't know how many claims are actually going to really come in. There may be more claims coming from the hospital. There may be less claims. We don't know. And this is just a projection. It's just an estimate. And so that's what we want you to be aware of. So that's why we're here today to request for this amount. And again, it could go up, it could go down. Bear in mind, if we don't have the 3.5 million that was...
Could you explain that?
Yes,
in
yes,
detail?
absolutely.
Yes,
the 3.5 million, as you mentioned earlier, was already a law that was passed, the public law. And that 3.5 million was already factored into the federal awards, as you can see on the top. If we don't have that currently now, then of course we're going to have to add that into the shortfall. So the 13.3 million plus the 3.5 million will be approximately over $16 million, or to be exact, $16,882,268 and 38 cents. But that's, again, just an estimate. Until we reconcile everything with the auditors, then we give you the exact figure, but that cannot be done until the reconciliation has been completed.
All right. I appreciate that. For our purposes, I will call this the minimum 13.3. We're looking at a minimum.
Yes.
And if you could, maybe Mr. Byrne, if you could help us explain about the 3.5 from that law that was passed at the end of the last term and why that has not reached the Department of Public Health.
Senator, yes. I think as you learned yesterday that BBMR is tracking the receipts on the Healthy Futures Fund, and the tracking at the moment suggests that it's actually not going to be 3.5 million behind. It's going to be about 2.5 million behind the estimate for the year. Again, as Mr. DeNorsi says, you know, that's an estimate. We've got 4 months worth of tracking. BBMR is going to do some more work looking at the actual receipts, because there may be accelerated receipts or decelerated receipts from the payers within that fund. But that's where we are at the moment.
Well, the way that the law was worded, it was supposed to be from the balance at the end, or at that day, in a 2018 balance. So are you saying that the 2018 balance was not adequate at that time for the 3.5 million?
No, that money was there, but you know, when you're looking at the payments, since they're all going to come in this financial year, whether it's a balance from last year or a receipt from this year, it amounts to the same amount of dollars.
All right, and so we talked about the shortfall, and then I would just ask you to clarify also again for all of us. If we were able to come up with the 13 million or for local matching, you would be able, hopefully, to meet your projected expenditures for claims, but this would still leave some ACA money not tapped. We'd have to return it at the end of September.
Well, obviously, if you don't have the claims to what I'm saying is, it's going to depend on how many claims come in.
Yes.
So if we have all these claims that are worth so many, like 61 million, then obviously we're going to have a local match for that. So to say, are we going to meet the 61 million? Again, it's all dependent upon how many claims come in.
Right. Yeah. So what would be the balance if your projected expenditures or projected claims, if these were the numbers, I guess, what is the balance left in those federal funds that we will not be using?
The balance, when you say balance, we're showing the 61 is the awarded.
Okay.
So you have to take what is awarded and subtract from what you are spending.
Right.
So to ask me what's the balance, it's going to be all contingent upon how much is spent, because each of the 6 programs have different percentages. I can't give you just a whole ballpark figure. It's going to depend what claims are for what types of programs, because some programs are 55-45.
Well, we're using
the
a
And
projected,
can be
just
more
a projected. If we just used your projected expenditures.
If you're going to look at the spreadsheet that I
Yes.
provided, so basically it says there's 26 million more that's needed. So that's 26 million is not factored in to the amount that we have now. There's 4 million left, that's not much. Out of the ACA funding that we got, we have 20.562 million. So out of that, 4 million is not in here because it doesn't have local match. So as we stated there, down below, we need 26 million federal, right? That is not much. Remove the 4 million, that means subtract the 22 million from the 61 million, there will be 39 million left of the ACA. That is based on the current claims projection processing.
Right.
It might increase because I just look at today, and so there is an increase, honestly. And, you know, looking at GRMC stating that we owe them, if they're going to submit their claims, we will need more local match.
Okay, so these projections were based on claims to date.
Yes.
For FY19.
Up till January 31st.
January 31st.
Okay, oh, sorry, so up to January 31st, not
Yes.
to today.
No.
All right, and so what do you expect, well, are you saying that the projections then do not include what you might, I'm not familiar with what you
it
mean
is.
by GRMC's claims. Is that in addition to what you're projecting here?
Yes, because I
Okay.
increased the projection here by 10%.
Okay.
So depending on the claims, if they can resubmit those claims that they stated that we owe them, then it is.
The awards will be touched further, so that means you have more local match that needs to be provided for.
Yes. Ms. Archangel, for my colleagues, could you please
State your name.
tell us your position? And I know that you've been there for many years, and I just give them a little bit of your background.
Okay. I'm no longer the Medicaid director. I'm the chief administrator for Division of Public Welfare, which handles SNAP, CCDF, Cash Assistance Program, TANF, and Black Grant, the CPS. But Medicaid program is still under my purview. Yeah. I have here the administrator of the Medicaid program at the back.
All right, thank you, welcome. All right, thank you. And, okay, so pretty much those are the basics. I wanted to get the facts down. I'm sure my colleagues have questions on these facts and what we can expect. But if I could ask you just both of you one more time to maybe state for us, what possibilities do you foresee to come up with this 13 million? Are we looking, is the department pursuing any, or is the Department of Administration pursuing this? Do we have a strategy?
Speaking from the Department of Administration, we discussed this with Public Health on Monday, and you know already there's been a change between Monday and today in the amount that's projected that we're looking for. Part of the issue, and I want to make sure that this is well understood, is that at the end of last fiscal year, there was a shortfall of about 6 million, which effectively falls into this financial year. And that's just something that we had to deal with. And each year, that shortfall had grown. So you know, it's possible that we get to the end of this financial year, there might be yet another shortfall. As you know, the general fund, where most of these monies come from, is in a deficit position. So in order to find these funds, basically there's two choices. Either we divert these funds from somewhere else, but of course that would hurt those particular programs, or we try to find new revenues to get into the general fund to pay for these claims as they become due. And at this moment, we're still looking at that. And it certainly would be helpful, you know, if we could arrive at a consensus of what the number is.
All right. When I looked at the CRER, and I'm going to admit right off the bat, I'm not the financial person here. I'm a lawyer. But the CRER for December, which shows the first 3 months of the fiscal year, showed in taxes, income taxes and GRTs together, a little bit of a surplus. Is that money that we could put to public health right away?
Yes, I mean, and effectively, because we're paying these claims now, that's effectively what we're doing.
All right. And, okay, well, I know, I introduced bills that said, 2 bills. One said that if there is excess in those income tax and the GRTs based on, compared to the projected receipts or revenues, that would go to this right away, and also if there was any additional Section 30. And I know you've probably seen, we have other bills down here for other uses of Section 30, and I just want to put that out there so we can all contribute to a strategy. But so I'd like to open the panel. Is there anything else you would like to state before I open this up to questions from the panel?
Well, if the claims keep coming in, obviously that means we're going to have more of a shortfall. This is just an estimate. I just want to emphasize that. And if we can have more money, I hate to see prior year obligation being moved to the next fiscal year. That's what has been happening over and over and over. That's why we keep coming here back to you. And if we can really address that and just pay all the bills all at once, that would really minimize all this more of a frustration in terms of getting the bills and having a shortfall. So if at all possible, if we want some comfort and you're able to find monies, and we're asking for the 13.3 million, if you add 5 million on top of that, I think we'll be okay. So that we don't have to think of next year again, prior obligation going on to FY 2020. And he's getting really alarmed, but
yes,
I'm just saying that if you want really to plan thoroughly and not be in a crisis mode, because I'm a type of person that I like to plan ahead, but I'm making Mr. Byrne really nervous, so I better keep quiet.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but unfortunately, what we're looking at right now is just diverting, as Mr. Byrne says, from one place to another, and so that's our question to you. Is it urgent that these be diverted immediately? And you had told me in our meeting that you would run out of funding by April 1.
That is correct.
And according to the
well, certain funds will run out right away, like the regular Medicaid and Medicaid childless adults within the second quarter by the end of the fiscal year 2019. So that's going to happen, and there's a possibility that CHIP may run out also by the third quarter of FY 2019.
All right, well, hopefully the good news that is being shared about Guam Memorial Hospital will come into play here, Mr. Byrne, but I'm going to open this up to my colleagues. Speaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just based on trying to see the immediate emergency right now and just trying to get a grasp on the numbers, based on the need of the 13.5 plus the additional 5 that you're desiring right now to get us afloat. If I had to look at the immediate, like making sure that those that are most vulnerable that need this coverage, what we're looking at, how much money for the next month? Because she said programs are going to stop by 1 April, am I right? And that's, did I just hear that?
No, what we're going to continue to accept billings. They're going to continue on. So as the billing claims come in, we process them.
Right. So but you just said a second ago. Maybe you can reiterate that.
Yes. If we don't, there's a possibility that we may run out of funds for certain programs like the ACA Medicaid and the Medicaid childless adults at the end of FY 2000 in the second quarter. That's what I said. And there's also a possibility that CHIP may also run out by the end of the third quarter of FY 2019. And again, because these programs have certain percentages for the federal versus the local.
And it needs, and we need to give the matching.
Yes,
right.
absolutely.
So if the good senator had, oversight chair had said that she had introduced several bills that could try and get funding for the program. My question to you is, based on the urgency, what time are we looking at to be able to plug up the hemorrhaging?
The hemorrhaging.
What is the timeline that we need to work with to try and fund and work with the administration? And has the administration brought up any other funds that may not have been maybe overlooked? I mean, in the past there was a lot of special funds that may have not been utilized yet. It's cheated funds. I'm just throwing things out right now. Has the administration shared anything to you about where the possibilities that we could revisit, healthy futures, all that stuff?
Well, we're still discussing it with the governor and the lieutenant governor. They're very much aware that we're presenting this, and of course, she's very much in favor of providing the services and increasing access and availability to those who need to have care. So Mr. Byrne and I have been meeting with each other, so is Tess, to really try and strategize, and that's why we really don't want to keep this prior year obligation continuing. If we maximize the amount of money that we can use from the federal dollars, then this in the long run will save the local government money, because then we can tap on these federal dollars in lieu of just the local dollars. And if we don't spend the federal dollars, then you're obviously going to have no federal ability to use those funds. And so the process of really trying to pay out as much as we can utilizing the federal dollars is the strategy that we need to go. But again, there's a local match that has to be in place.
That's right.
That
the
is
local
right.
match that needs to be in place.
So I hope I answered your question, Speaker.
If I might just say.
She can add more.
Okay. The funding is available up to 9:30. Our providers, I would say they're so good. They accept all those patients as long as they can. But sometimes they do close their doors. So tendency is our clients, our patients go to GRMC emergency room or GMH emergency room. That will increase the cost of services. So they're not going to close their door. They will be there. But come 9:30, all those claims needs to be paid in order for us to tap that ACA funding. Not only us process those claims by 9:30, it needs to be paid by 9:30 by Department of Administration in order for us to tap that funding. If it's not paid, then federal will not reimburse us.
That's right.
Thank you. Yeah, I could remind the panel that, so the Department of Public Health has assured us that they are pretty much up to date with processing claims, and I want to commend you for that. I think that we've talked about those things in the past, but as of now, you're saying you are up to date processing claims that have been submitted. So when the claims are processed, they still go to DOA, and then payment. So you might hear from providers that they haven't received payment and that there's a large delay, but the delay is really in that cash, getting the cash and getting the actual payment to them. But so there's a dichotomy here. I just wanted to point that out. And also, Linda, in fairness, if you could just remind us, there were some strategies that were discussed, I'm sure, regarding, asking for an extension. All the territories, by the way, are pretty much in a very similar situation. So it's not just Guam, but the other territories are also facing this, but very, of course, urgent because of the poverty levels, because of the amount of people that are under this program. And so, in addition to an extension, we talked about getting, working with Congress and the federal government with getting an adjustment of the FMAP levels, the poverty levels, or the criteria, or the matching levels, and also the
ideal thing, Senator, would be for us to request to extend it. But again, that's going to be up to Congress.
Right. We can't count on it.
We cannot have any say in that regards. We can only ask, but that would be the ideal way to go, so we can maximize every possible federal award that we get.
Or to remove the Medicaid cap altogether.
Yes, that's
treat
another
the
option.
Guam like the
because-
states without the caps.
Correct, because
Yes.
right now our FY 2019 Medicaid cap is at 17,970,000 in comparison to last year, which was 17,600,000. So the cap went up a little bit. But see, the difference between Guam and the other states is that Medicaid on Guam is capped, but the other states, they can charge as much and they can get the reimbursements. As money claims come in, they can pay it. We can't. We have a cap. And once you reach that cap, you're not going to get any more dollars as far as that's concerned. Everybody comprehend?
Yes, so I just want to make sure those are all also on the table so that my colleagues, I think that would be fair. And so, Senator San Augustine?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. DeNorsi,
Yes, sir.
I like how you like to reiterate the ideal, and the ideal thing to the people of Guam and everybody in the government of Guam is that we have all the money. And Mr. Byrne will say the same thing. If we had enough money, you'd get it appropriated. There are bills that Madam Chair has introduced. Great bill. Where's the money coming from? Mr. Byrne would have to answer that, and he doesn't have the source of funding. That's why that bill is not being entertained. You need money. You don't need it now, but you would like to get it in the hopper, right? You would like to have it available so you could use it when you need to pay claims. Well, unfortunately, hate to give you the bad news, but there's just no money today. And as soon as there is money, I would have no hesitation, the Office of Finance and Budget would have no hesitation to support the Madam Chair's bill, and let's give you the money. But see, when we want to introduce and recognize your shortfall, I have to also consider every other agency that's probably going to rush through this door and say, you know what, we're short of police officers, we're short of teachers. They're short all over, Ms. DeNorsi. I sympathize, I want to help everybody that's sick out there, but I'm waiting for charter school to say, where's our money? Everybody's going to be asking for money. And until we get things settled, and Mr. Byrne knows where I'm coming from on DOA with the governor, when we get things settled, and if we're fortunate, and the governor's able to get the $30 million that she's hoping to get, not the 12, but the 30, if it was possible, and it comes in, I think the governor's going to actually say, we got to go to public health first. Then she's going to say, we're going to go to GPD. Then she's going to say she's going to go to DU, because those are only the 3 areas we need to concentrate on. And as soon as that's available, ma'am, I have no reservation or hesitation to support the needs of public health, GMH, and even behavioral that was just here earlier. There are a lot of shortfalls, ma'am.
Right, I understand.
And any way we can help you, we will help you. I know that. Let's say that this body wants to reach out and help you, but we just don't have the Midas touch right this time to just say, here's the money. It's just not possible at this time. But we will still scrub the books, look at the numbers, and try to convince the administration that you got to have Rob Peter so we can take care of Paul, and hopefully Sam down the road will give back the money to Peter. Okay? So we're going to see what we can do, but you just have to, the ideal situation is not here yet. We're still going, we still don't even know the true impact of the the Trump Job Act, okay? People are already writing that the middle class is getting tax galore. And we haven't even felt it yet here in Guam. It's going to hit the ground very soon when they start asking for tax refund, and there's more people paying than there are people getting refunds. It's all going to be at the lower end. Hopefully the EITC can be waived somehow and paid for, then we don't have to worry about this anymore. All right? Thank you, Madam Chair.
We have a lot of good plans on the horizon, a lot of hope. So we're waiting every day for good news, and I understand there was some very good news today about the hospital, about the rates, so I'm sure that will play into this. But Senator Torres?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You mentioned, Ms. Norsi, that in order to make available the federal funds, that there has to be a local match that has to be paid in, right? So there's a requirement to pay before you received. You also mentioned that we are limited by a cap, but have we in fact billed to our cap on Guam? Yes, we have billed to our cap, okay. And when the monies are received into Guam, does the government have a priority of reimbursement of claims? Does it take care of itself first before it takes care of its other partners, like our partner hospital, for example?
Well, that's a jurisdiction as far as
Yeah,
where
how
the
is
claims
that
go down to
prioritized in
Department
terms of the sustainability of all facilities on Guam who provide services to this clientele?
Based on the law, it's first in, first out. So based on the claims received, that's how we pay our providers.
Right.
Yeah, because of federal regulations, we have to pay in the order that we receive the claims.
Okay, so that's how it is?
Yes.
All right, because I was under the impression that we have not billed to our cap, and that in fact if GovGuam continues to pay in to the threshold, that we will realize enough monies to cover all of our client needs on Guam. That's my understanding, not based on anything I've seen concretely, but you're saying, though, that we have reached our cap limit in terms of what we're eligible to receive? Okay, all right, thank you.
No.
I don't believe
wait,
so.
Let me clarify that. The funding, the Medicaid funding has the regular Medicaid has a cap. But because of ACA, there's an additional 268.3 million that was given to Guam to utilize from 2011 to 2019 fiscal year. So based on that, technically, the cap was removed because you have this money that you continuously use.
Yes.
So, but the 17.97 million is already earmarked. That's for administration as well as for payment of claims. I would say that 17.9 million or less 2 million for the administration. The 15.9 million has been exhausted. So we're utilizing ACA now, the ACA funding. And there's another funding for CHIP. Remember, fiscal year 2018, they reauthorized the CHIP. From 6 total computable to 8 million total computable, it went up to 25, 28, 30 million. So that's an additional funding. And it is extended up to 2013, except that the FMAP of CHIP will go down. It will eventually go back to 68.5 based on the ACA. Right now, our FMAP, Federal Medical Assistance percentage is 91.5. So with regards to the CHIP claims, we don't have a problem because we only need 8.5 million to match it. So we're still going to continue processing those claims for children, definitely. But the adult, the chronic conditions, these are the ones that we need to worry. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and the reason I brought this up is when we think about the demographics and how I believe it's more than 50%, almost 60% of people that utilize health services on Guam fall into an assistance-based system. And so if that's the case where we have so many people in need of care and we have the ability to avail ourselves of more care, but it requires a pay-in, you know, the goal, of course, would be to put in a little bit more to get a lot more, right? Because the ultimate goal is to provide health care and to make sure that all our health care providers are reimbursed. So that's why I asked if there's still a window of opportunity. You know, there's always that claim that well, you're broke, but you know, sometimes putting in a little bit more affords you a greater gain than if you just did not avail of those opportunities. And so that's kind of where I'm going at is, have we reached the cap? We're really getting as much as we can, and this is the bottom line of all we need, or is there really a little bit more of an investment that we can put in to yield a far greater return on? So there is what you're saying.
The funding is available. The problem is the cap is on the local funding. That's where the cap is. Yeah, so what we're trying to say is there's 61 million available there that we can avail of. In order to reduce, if they're not going to extend it, we're going back to 17.9 million, and then they will just increase it based on the medical consumers price index probably of 2.1 to 4.5. That will not be enough.
We don't want
Our expenditure last year is 110 million.
That's the lost opportunity that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's,
Right.
that's the dumb
Yes, you're
scenario
right.
that we find
Yes.
ourselves in.
Yeah. That's why we're here asking for local match, and if we can tap on that funding, that will assist the government of Guam.
Thank you, Madam
Because
Chair.
all of these clients will go to GMH,
Or
and
to
you
us.
have to subsidize GMH.
Correct.
Thank you. Senator Taichugui?
I guess the question I have then is, well, what happened last year? Were we in the same predicament last year, not having enough money?
Yes, that's true.
We were in the
But
same
we were
predicament.
able, yeah, they did not fund any, they didn't give us any funding for ACA, but they did give us 11 million for GMH Pharmaceutical to utilize that as a local match for GMH. We did not utilize all of that. We have 4 million left. The reason being is because GRMC is here. Definitely, there's a split on the patients where they go. But this year, that 19 million was totally given to GMH.
What does this have to do with rebasing that's happening, right? The news that's going to come out with the hospital being able to, they were able to rebase, and will affect the hospital.
Basically, what they, as I spoke to Miss Benita Manglonia, she stated that there will be increase in their per diem rate, on their rate. There will be an increase, but they cannot give me, that's why I inflated this a little bit, because they didn't inform me on how much would be the increase on their per diem rate.
How soon will you know?
I don't know. That's up to them.
Up to GMH?
Up to GMH.
Okay.
According to them, they're still rebasing it. They're still calculating it. Yes.
Yeah, this is a big breakthrough. I mean, the last time it was
Yes.
rebasing, I think, was in 1997 or something through Congress, and now we're doing it just through the efforts of the hospital prior year. This has always been an ongoing problem with Medicaid, being able to fund it. I mean, with the ability that we're getting, the opportunity we're getting from the federal government and matching this, and for health, it is priceless. It means more to anybody than anything else. Until you've really been sick to know what it's like, it's so important that we help these people, individual people, with the ability to see a doctor and be taken care of and treated. So I'm looking forward to finding ways with the chairperson, Senator Terlaje, and finding monies to help these individuals. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Perez?
So to fully maximize ACA, we have to come up with 35 million before September 30th? Is that the goal?
No. Not necessarily. It depends on the utilization of services. That 61 million, definitely, we cannot utilize all of that. That's based on the utilization of services. As of now, based on the claims processing, this is how much is our projection. It will increase depending on the services that the client utilize. They may not use it. It may be lower. Yeah.
Or maybe higher.
I'm not say, we're not saying we're going to get all of those 61 million. Based on historically, what we spent from ACA, the highest is 35 million last year.
Can that go to wellness programs? Or is it mostly treatment, acute care?
It's all. It's for dental services, for skilled nursing services, for preventive services, for all. It's not only for acute services.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Shelton?
You mentioned there was a cap for Guam. What was that number again?
For this, the cap increases yearly. Okay. It's based on the Medical Consumers Price Index. For this year, there's an increase of 2.1%. So from 17.6, it went up to 17.97. So it increases yearly depending on the Medical Consumers Price Index.
Senator Muña?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just really quickly, so there's so many numbers that are going around, and I just want to understand, so the shortfall is 10 million? 13 million. Does the 3.5 million appropriated from the Public Law 34-141 and the 700,000 appropriated, is that reduce the 13 million, or is that on top of addition?
The 3.5 million based on Public Law 34-141, it is incorporated there. It's already in there. The 700,000 is not. The reason being is it's still under legal legal opinion, as according to them.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we did is we utilized the 722,000 that is still also appropriated to public health, which is part of Healthy Futures Fund.
Okay. That was my question. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Senator Rajel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Part of the issue, right, is that expenses continue to rise. I think it was saying here like 9% average expenditure increase yearly, right? Over from 2014 to 2018, that's the average. How do we keep expenses down? How do we keep, I mean, it says here it's just saying that the cost of drugs in your letter, in your testimony, you know, treatment, defensive medicine, MRIs, CT scans, laboratory, radiology tests. How do we keep those costs down? What I mean is, are there any ways to make sure that they're not overly, you know, having MRI scans that are unnecessary, laboratory tests that are unnecessary, you know, CT scans that are unnecessary?
We have our what we call MAFUCO, Medicaid Fraud Control Unit. We review the claims, and even CMS, they have the Medicaid Integrity Program who reviews our claims. If I'm going to show you how much is the total charge versus the total payment, average payment of Medicaid is roughly 43 to 50 of that total charge.
Okay. So you're confident that process is working well?
Yes. That's why GRMC is complaining of those return and denied claims. I'm sorry, I always mention GRMC because we owe them a lot as according to GRMC. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Prinsky, would you like to join the panel? All right, I just want to, Mr. Byrne, would you like to add anything to this?
Just to say, thank you, Senator, for the opportunity. Just to say, you know, we've been discussing that there's some unspent federal funds. You know, if you look at it the other way around, the situation would have been much worse had we expended all the federal funds in prior years. So at least we do have some federal funds in this year in order to draw on. And I know it's kind of awkward that there are undrawn federal funds, but it really is the better situation.
Do you agree, Linda?
Well, those 6 grants that are awarded are there, and we're really, in the long run, saving a lot of money from the local expenditures, if you really look at it that way. So the objective here is to maximize the usage of those federal dollars. And in the long run, we save the government lots of money. Yes. That's my take.
Thank you. Well, yeah, and I agree, Mr. Byrne, and I'm glad you're pointing it out in that way. Yes, and so I do want to commend all of you for your work in really getting us to utilize these funds, and you've been acting under a deadline, and so I want to acknowledge that. And I like the news that the claims are all processed, or, you know, and that you're very clearly, you know, got this as a priority, and you're processing claims. And I know Mr. Byrne that he knows the deadlines too, and he's working to get those paid. And we know our providers, and we do not want them to stop providing the services. As Ms. Archangel explained, we do not want them to go and get services instead from, you know, GMH as a default, because it's more expensive. And so, so I look at these numbers that you've given us as a good estimate, but perhaps, you know, low, because there are things you're not predicting here, perhaps, that claims that have not been submitted, or claims not according to the pattern that you've seen for the first 4 months, right?
Right.
And of course, the claims that are submitted are much greater than the claims that you've actually approved. That's what you're saying now with your fraud review and the CMS review, that the claims that we're actually paying are much less than what are actually submitted. Okay, and so, but it does seem that, so the need is still there. The need is looking at 13 million today.
Yes.
And changing.
But you can
Mr.
cushion
Byrne,
it with another 5 million, that would be great.
if you could please let us know if that 3.5 million is able to go when that happens. And the 700,000, do you mind updating us on that 700,000? It was an appropriation from Gita's community funds, and I know that they are arguing there's a Organic Act issue.
Yes.
Or separation of powers. However, did the DOA send a request for those funds, community funds? Because Gita had also come into the legislature and said if we sent a letter requesting the funds, they might just send them over.
Yes, Senator, we did send the letter, and you're right, there is an inquiry going on as to the organicity of the requirement.
All right, so the organicity as to the law, but what about the letter? Have they addressed that in the new administration?
Did I receive a response to that letter? No.
All right. Are you able to follow up and give us an update on that?
Yes, Senator, of course.
Thank you. That would just get them some additional cash, or get you additional cash, hopefully, to pay. All right. And, oh, yes, please, Senator Marsh.
Half a day. So I know that this is specifically looking at budget shortfalls and projections and so forth, but I know, based on Senator Bajel's question, kind of building on that, to just challenge us in our different oversights, to be looking for those long-term solutions and be trying to figure out ways that we can be stemming these costs from being incurred in the first place. You know, whether it's societally, culturally, I mean, the different programs that we have, the different agencies that we have, to really be thinking about the health of our community so that we're needing to go to the hospital hopefully less. So again, you know, I know this isn't addressing the monetary issues directly, but I'd like to have us continue to really be thinking about that in all of our oversights, that there are a lot of ways that we can be addressing some of these sorts of costs in healthcare or other agencies that are going to be coming before us with such issues, and to be thinking about how we can be doing the long-term preventative sort of planning. So, thanks.
Right, that's why access to routine primary health care services is very critical. And if they don't do that, then they obviously end up with acute care services, and then it worsens because they don't even take care of that, and they land in the emergency room. So that's the whole purpose of having access to preventive healthcare services on top of prevention, where they go out, they get their immunizations, they do screenings for high blood pressure and cholesterol and diabetes, so that their conditions can be controlled so they don't get out of control and land to the hospital for inpatient care services. So you're absolutely right, Senator.
Yes, and I agree that all of our committees could really, we all need to work together. It's community health is everybody's business.
Right.
And we're lucky to have a director who's really, that's your acting director, that is really been, that's her strength, is community health. Our community health centers are award-winning because of this acting director. So, all right, so we're looking at a 13 million estimate today of what is needed in order to
get through to FY 2019.
Right, just for FY 2019 to use 26 million some in federal funds, matching funds, and so that will get us through claims. Unfortunately,
but that's just an estimate, Senator.
Right, I know. I'm saying it's a minimum. And Senator Perez is right that we are not accessing any other programs besides the claims at this point under the ACA.
The more claims we get, the more money we're going to use from the federal awards, and then the more local match we're going to need from you all.
Yes, and so just that the public understands too, as you both said, this is good, but we're going to end up with some unused federal funds if this is the plan, right? And so everyone needs to understand that's the plan, and but we are going to try to maximize claims. So all claims should be put in, and all claims should be processed, and we're going to help with Mr. Byrne and the governor to help find funding for those claims, the matching side of that. And thank you very much. So I want to thank all of my colleagues for really taking the time to hear our directors and to do this seat. So this is an informational briefing, and so there will be in 30 days, there will be a report done as to what was said here, and that will be put up on the legislature's website. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, senators.